So Sora is now finally rolled out to a bunch of folks. OpenAI team has already released their first blog with respect to the first impressions of Sora. Now, if you've been under the rock and you don't know what Sora is, well, Sora is OpenAI's own text to video generation model that can generate highly realistic videos to a point where you can't differentiate between if these were really created or, recorded in real life. This means Sora is not just going to impact the content creators like you and me, it's going to impact VFX industry as we know. So naturally, this is like the most important update that personally I'm looking for. And I've been following them on Instagram, and a bunch of people have started posting the samples that they generated with Sora. If you look at the access, if you scroll down to the access, and you would notice that they have given access to a bunch of folks across the relevant industries, right? So filmmakers, directors, and so on. So they've given these access to these guys just for them to kind of play around with the platform. And they have now started posting all of this on Instagram. So let's take a look at how these generations are. But by the way, they've also, Sora, the OpenAI team has also posted their own blog. So we'll first look through these blogs and then actually the Instagram page of OpenAI, because a bunch of people have now started tagging OpenAI with their generation. So basically, the reason they are tagging is because they want to get featured on this blog post. But I think that's done, and they've already started publishing the best ones here now. So the first one is Paul Trillo, and this guy is a director. And notice how he says that it's the most powerful when you're not replicating the old, but bringing new to life and the impossible ideas we have otherwise never had the opportunity to see. So what he basically says that if you're trying to reproduce movies, it's not going to do really well. But if you have newer ideas and you try to generate those using Sora, it's going to do relatively well in those scenarios. And exact similar comment here. And I think this is more aligned with the fact that they don't want to portray as someone who will take the jobs of these video creators, but rather generate more creative bits using Sora. So let's take a look at some of the samples shared by these artists. The funny part, by the way, and if you don't know about it, there's this new thing called AI data poisoning. So some of the artists are enraged at the fact that OpenAI used their own data to train their models and then are now taking their jobs away, right? So art generation, creative generations, and so on. So what they're now doing is that they're poisoning the data by feeding in wrong information on the internet. This is a good blog post that talks about this. So you notice artists fight back against AI with data poisoning. So effectively what they're doing is they're creating these fake blog posts by creating fake domains and feeding in wrong content extensively, right? Now, while this will not impact the huge data set that models like ChatGPT already have or GPT-4 already have, but even the 0.01 percentage of the data poison data can be visible to the end users, right? Because end of the day, it's going to take a look into the entire data set and then generate. Well, the concept, by the way, is not new of data poisoning, but it's now getting rampant, right? After a bunch of people got impacted. Either ways, I just wanted to talk about this. Now let's take a look at the video that is generated here. I don't know if it has audio. It does. So by the way, they have named the video Shy Kids, and the subtitle is Airhead, I guess. Let's play this.
Well, they say everyone has something unique about them, something that sets them apart. It's just in my case, it's quite obvious what that thing is. I am literally filled with hot air. Yeah, living like this has its challenges. Windy days, for one, are particularly troublesome. Or there was the one time my girlfriend insisted I go to the cactus store to give my Uncle Jerry a wedding present. Ugh. What do I love most about my predicament? The perspective it gives me. I get to see the world differently. I float above the mundane and the ordinary. I see things a different way from everyone else. Yeah, and I feel like it's because of that perspective I'm reminded every day that life is fragile. We're all just a pinprick away from deflation. So I try to live life with a lightness, a buoyancy, a joie de vivre. I got a lot of ideas keeping this thing full. With any luck, I'll find a way to share them with everyone else.
This is pretty good. I mean, it's almost like the story of a balloon, but rather personified as a person. The same comment here, as great as it is at generating things, the ability to make things that are abstract is what is important about the model right now. Here's another one by Paul Trillo, and we saw his comment earlier. By the way, before I show this to you, I don't know how the audio was added in here. I am assuming that this was a second step because Sora is currently only generating the videos. So I don't know how the audio was added. Maybe that was done later on. And I'm also not sure if they've made cuts or, they've made multiple generations before connecting them. So for now, for me, this is like very, very unclear with respect to how this was done. But I'm assuming that multiple videos were generated and put together in the frame once the generations were done. Let's take a look at this other video now. This is by the director that we just, went through his content earlier. So let's just play this now. So another amazing video, primarily this time seems like it's doing some sort of infinite zoom in, and then in the end, it's almost like you're floating through the time to reach at some point, right? And then it comes back. So again, very good generation, but it's very clear that these were not generated at once. Rather, what this was, it seems like a result of having generating 4 to 5 seconds frames and then putting all of that together, which is similar to what Runway or Pika do today as well, right? The generation is not as good as what we saw here, but at least if you look at what these models are doing today, it's not very different from what Sora is doing right now. Here's another one by another creative director, Nick Cleverov. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that okay. Seems more like a commercial of a brand. Very interesting. I don't know what was actually going on in there, but again, it seems like a bunch of these generations were put together. And they say that visualize concepts and rapidly iterate for creative brand partners. So it's very clear now that this is a bunch of frames being put together now. So it's not like 1 minute video was entirely generated, but rather you choose how many seconds worth of video you want, and then you would take X number of frames to put all of that together for this generation. Here's another one, and this is by an artist or slash musician, so this has to be more on the lines of, say, creative. So let's watch it. I mean, it's good. Maybe I don't get what was going on, but the overall generation looks like there's some sort of gem that is present through the video. And I think some of the frames are even, no, I don't think they're repeated. This seems like a one shot generation, to be honest, right? Because you see the gem here at the start, and then as you go through the generation, you'll see another gem, and the frames are all kind of aligned, right? Here's another one, and I saw this on their Instagram today and I like it. So let's watch it. Again, by the way, this clarifies that you will also have options for multiple generations in Sora. So there's option 1, 2, 3. And then what I saw on Instagram was only one of these generations. This is by a 3D design team, right? By the way, I saw this one, third one. Seems like a fish like human inside of in the water, I guess. Good generation overall. Again, more on the lines of creative generation. And this one, by the way, is also very, very good. So let's play it. This one I think is one of the best generations I saw on Sora. Again, this is by an animation company.
Welcome to Beyond Our Reality, a journey through parallel worlds, where we delve into the extraordinary. Episode 1 unveils the giraffe flamingo, a stunning hybrid that roams the savannah with grace and vibrant hues.
The zzz that you're hearing, it's probably they want to portray that there's some air moving through the video. And you can see this is almost like a combination of swan and a giraffe, which is interesting. And this is what a lot of these creators are now saying, is that it's great at generating things that don't exist rather than generating things that already do. So maybe this is what they mean. And this looks very, very good. The reason why this looks better than what already exists is because we've not seen it, right? And for us it's interesting because we're seeing it for the first time. So maybe that's the idea behind this, right? So it can generate things that you haven't seen, and because you haven't seen them, you think they are good. So maybe the model is not that good overall, but anyways, let's just walk through this.
In episode 2, we ascend with the flying pigs, charming creatures that redefine the skies with their harmonious flight. Episode 3 plunges us into the depths to discover the whale puss, an elegant blend of whale and octopus ruling the ocean's abyss. Episode 4 introduces us to the eel cat, an aquatic enigma that combines the sleekness of an eel with the curiosity of a cat. Episode 5 presents the bunny armadillo, a delightful mix of bunny charm and armadillo protection, captivating our hearts. Episode 6 features the horsefly, a small yet noble creature that buzzes with a blend of horse-like dignity and fly-like agility. Episode 7 explores the reptilian aru, a creature that leaps across the desert with the vigor of a kangaroo and the resilience of a reptile. Our adventure culminates in Episode 8 with the fox crow, a fusion of fox cunning and crow freedom soaring through the forest's enigma. Join us on this mesmerizing journey through Beyond Our Reality, a journey.
This is very good. And like I said, it's good for generations or things that you haven't seen, because naturally you would find those things impressive, right? Because maybe I haven't seen this. Now, if it were generating things like a horse, maybe it's not that impressive. So let's see if there are any more generations. So there's one more. Let's just watch it and then I'll give you the final comments. To be honest, until this point, if you compare it with what they released in here, these ones, I am not really impressed by these generations, because this is what people will actually generate when you hand the AI over to them, right? They're not going to be in a position where they generate this, and these are naturally cherry picked by their team. But let's just watch this final generation. This was generated by a sculptor and an OpenAI artist in residence. So almost like a 3D generation. Again, while it's good at physics, it's not really good at things like identifying the structure of certain things, right? So one of the videos that we saw, and in the weakness section of that video, you would notice that the chair is not really, the model does not understand chair really well, right? And it kind of breaks through and is not able to do really well, handling the chair itself. And I think similarly, that is the case here, especially with the round object here. But overall, if I have to, and by the way, I'm not going through their Instagram primarily because all of these videos are the ones that they have also posted on Instagram. So it seems like they have a very small pool of people who are currently testing it out. And anyways, like I said, if I have to give you the final thoughts on this, I honestly don't think the generations that have actually been generated by people are as impressive as the ones that were, shared by their own team. But if you remember correctly, and if we go into their technical paper, let me find the technical report, and if we scroll to somewhere here, I think, right here, they clearly mentioned that with the base compute you can generate something like this. If you 4x the compute, you can generate something like this, and 32x the compute, you can generate something like this. Now I'm 100% certain that running 32x compute will also mean that you're paying 32x more per second or per frame of that video than you would with the base compute, right? And this is exactly why when these artists are trying out, they're probably trying out maybe the 4x compute, because if you look at the generations here, this one is awesome, right? This one is a very good generation. But if you look at some of the generation, they seem like, especially this one, right? They seem more aligned with this sort of compute. So maybe it's just the matter of the compute. And in one of the videos or on the Lexus podcast, right? OpenAI's founder, Sam Altman, he clearly said that compute is going to be the currency of the future. So maybe in the future, depending on what kind of generation you want, right? So let's say this one, if you want this kind of generation, then you will have to pay more for that generation as opposed to you pay for 4x versus base compute. Now, naturally, if I'm a film director or an artist who is publishing this on a daily basis, I wouldn't want to work on 4x compute. So I'll pay more for the 32x compute. And hence the company who's giving me that amount of power, I'll pay more to that company. And that happens to be OpenAI in this scenario. So that is profitable from their direction. But that also means that the model will be very less accessible to people naturally. And I don't see why, especially for a dog video like this, why wouldn't I just, go to a park and record using my own hands, because I'll be able to get things first time right. Then running this 32x compute multiple times to get the right sort of generation. Now they can implement a workflow where the first video that is generated, and when you generate the second one, so maybe when they generate like 3 videos, they will generate on say 4x compute. And then when the user decides to say improve the quality of the generation, then they maybe push you to 32x compute and maybe charge you extra for that. So maybe that's all of that is currently very open-ended. In the recent leaks that have happened on GPT-5, the founder also mentioned that GPT-4 kind of sucks. And there is some sort of rumors going on with respect to some enterprise customers who have already started receiving demos for GPT-5 and they've liked it. And it's also anticipated that the model will have video generation capability in this scenario, Sora. So maybe they're just gearing out for the release of the early version of Sora. It's obviously not going to be as good as the 32x compute because it's not going to make sense to them financially. Even right now, running queries is very expensive for OpenAI. So maybe they'll release like a base compute version, but then that the question that comes back to my head is that why advertise it as 32x compute, right? And put a lot of or go viral and build false expectations to the end user. Why not just show what you can and give today and then scale as you go? But again, it's multiple perspectives, right? Maybe they just want to show to these filmmakers that, hey, this is what is possible. If you pay more, we can give you this, and which is completely fair. And honestly, like the reason, and one of the reasons is very clear now. You can see you can generate things that are hypothetical and the people haven't seen them and people will like it. Same for AI generated stories, right? If you, because you haven't heard that story, you will probably hear it and then you will continue watching it, right? Because you've not heard it. But if someone were to tell you the Iron Man story or a movie that you've already watched, it's not going to be as interesting for you. So really the use case, to be honest, based on what the artist have said and based on what I've seen, is on scenarios that don't exist and are hypothetical. And I don't honestly think that can, at least at this point of time, impact a lot of video makers and so on, because that industry will continue to exist. If I'm a photographer and I have to pay $1,000 to generate a 2-minute video, I can just take the camera, go to a barn and record the video of a horse rather than generating it here. But hey, if I want to see a unicorn, right, I'll have to invest a lot of money. I hire a videographer and so on. But instead, what I can do is I can, use OpenAI's AI model to generate that video for me. So again, multiple perspectives. Let me know what you guys think. But that's all I have for the video. I hope you learned what the model can do now. I hope you understood my thoughts. And if you have any comments or questions, drop them in the comments section and I'll get back to you guys. Or Q&A section, by the way, and I'll get back to you guys. So see you guys in the next one.